Imagine being dragged into a courtroom ambush over something as simple as a pair of socks. Now imagine turning that ambush into the greatest legal takedown the nation's ever seen. When Vice President JD Vance stepped into that courtroom, he was supposed to be humiliated. Instead, he exposed a level of corruption no one saw coming. Buckle up, because this isn't just a story about socks. It's a story about power, pride, and one man's unstoppable fight for justice. It started like any other day in Washington, D.C. The federal courthouse was buzzing, a high-profile hearing with the Vice President himself, JD Vance. Journalists packed the gallery, pens poised, cameras ready. On the surface, it looked routine. But beneath the marble columns and the formalities, a trap had been set. Presiding over the case was Judge Martin Callahan, a man whose disdain for conservative figures was an open secret among Beltway insiders. And today, he wasn't hiding it. J.D. Vance entered wearing a navy blue suit, polished shoes, and socks. Not just any socks. White with small green shamrocks stitched across them. The moment J.D. sat down, the courtroom atmosphere shifted. Judge Callahan tapped his gavel twice, the sound sharp and deliberate. Judge Callahan smirking. "Mr. Vance, before we proceed, we need to address a serious breach of courtroom decorum." Confused murmurs filled the air. J.D. raised an eyebrow. "For what, Your Honor?" Callahan leaned forward, pointing. "Those socks!" The room fell silent. Cameras clicked. A few journalists suppressed their laughter, ready to pounce on the headline of "Vice President held in contempt over socks." Judge Callahan. "This is a federal courtroom, Mr. Vance, not a St. Patrick's Day parade. You're in contempt. And for this blatant disrespect, I'm issuing a $10,000 fine." Gasps, shock. Twitter was already exploding. J.D. Vance, humiliated by socks? Or so they thought. J.D. Vance didn't flinch. He didn't stammer, apologize, or plead. Instead, he smiled. Slowly, calmly, he stood. J.D. Vance. "Your Honor, are you aware you've just committed a violation of federal law?" Judge Callahan blinked. "Excuse me?" J.D. opened his briefcase, pulling out a document. Holding it high enough for the cameras to see, he read, J.D. Vance, Title 42, Section 2000D of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It is illegal to discriminate based on race, color, or national origin in any federally assisted program. He paused. "These socks," he said, lifting his pant leg slightly, "are a cultural symbol of Irish American heritage. Penalizing me for wearing them is an act of ethnic discrimination." You could have heard a pin drop. The judge paled. Journalists furiously backspaced their draft headlines. J.D. Vance continued, "Would you have fined someone wearing a Star of David, a hijab, a Native American symbol? Or is it just Irish Americans who aren't welcome in your courtroom?" Callahan's lips twitched. He had been cornered. J.D. wasn't finished. He paced the courtroom slowly, deliberately, his voice steady. J.D. Vance, if federal judges are expected to uphold the Constitution impartially, how can this courtroom tolerate selective enforcement based on cultural background? He dropped the final bombshell. J.D. Vance, not only is this fine unconstitutional, it could constitute grounds for a formal judicial misconduct investigation. The energy shifted. The judge had lost the room. Cameras zoomed in, capturing Callahan's grimace. J.D. gave him a final out. J.D. Vance, withdraw the fine, Your Honor, or I'll be forced to file an official complaint with the Judicial Conduct Board, and the American people will be watching every step. Silence. After a long, painful pause, Judge Callahan slammed his gavel. Judge Callahan, fine revoked. J.D. sat down, serene, while Callahan visibly shrank behind the bench. But the story wasn't over, not by a long shot. As reporters scrambled to rewrite their narratives, J.D. calmly produced another folder from his briefcase. J.D. Vance, one more thing, Your Honor. Since we're concerned with decorum, perhaps we should talk about yours. He handed it to the court clerk. Inside, documented evidence of Judge Callahan's ties to partisan donors, rulings favoring political allies, and offshore accounts traced through investigative journalists. The courtroom gasped anew. J.D. Vance, corruption isn't wearing the wrong socks. It's betraying the public trust behind closed doors. The judge stammered, trying to regain control, but it was useless. Networks that were once ready to crucify JD were now live streaming a career implosion. Public opinion flipped in real time. The justice for JD started trending. By the time JD left the courthouse, the media was in a frenzy. Fox News called it the most epic courtroom reversal in modern history. Even CNN reluctantly had to acknowledge, judge faces backlash after discriminatory sock fine. Thousands rallied online. Judicial accountability now. Stand up for cultural rights. Expose the corruption. Petitions demanding an ethics review of Judge Callahan gathered 1 million signatures in 48 hours. JD Vance held a press conference on the courthouse steps. JD Vance. Today wasn't about socks. It was about every American who's ever been silenced, mocked, or pushed aside by a system rigged against them. I will not stop fighting. The crowd roared. Across the nation, headlines shifted. The political hit job had backfired spectacularly. And JD Vance? He wasn't just a survivor. He was a symbol. A reminder that courage, preparation, and integrity could still shake the foundations of power. When they tried to humiliate him over a pair of Shamrock socks, JD Vance turned it into a reckoning for corruption, discrimination, and elitist arrogance. This wasn't just a courtroom win. This was a national moment of awakening. So what do you think? Should judges like Callahan face removal for these abuses of power? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because trust me, more truth bombs are coming.